couple things I wanted to talk about that are short, so I figured I'd just mash them into one video. Sage Restaurant in LA. I talked about them several months ago now, last year. They were a long-standing vegan restaurant, and then they announced that they were going to start serving meat, regenerative meat.
Today, on Earth Day, we're making a very special announcement. We are shifting what Sage Vegan Bistro will be, and we are transitioning it to a different kind of restaurant. We are going to have Sage, a regenerative kitchen.
There was a huge backlash from the vegan community, unsurprisingly. Part of the reason for the switch, besides the owner no longer believing in veganism and really believing in regenerative meat, regenerative agriculture, was financial. They were not doing well. And they were hoping that adding meat to the menu would bring in more people, different people to the restaurant. It did not. The restaurant closed earlier this month. I'm not talking about this to say like, ha ha ha. There is an element of that for me. I'm not going to lie. I mean, I would not be happy if they ended up being really successful after adding meat to the menu like that. That would hurt my heart. Instead, I wanted to respond to one of the kind of common responses I've seen to the closure. Was there anyone remotely familiar with the situation who didn't see this coming? You ran a restaurant with subpar to reasonably adequate food at best, an absolutely wonderful atmosphere, a wonderful community, and a spectacularly divine purpose. Then you kill the best thing you had going and try to window dress it with a new cause that literally murders the old cause, which was the predominant reason that the overwhelming majority of your customers supported the business in the first place. I wonder how that didn't work. Again, the restaurant was already in trouble before they added meat. I agree that it was kind of silly of them to think that just adding some meat is going to drastically change, how many customers they get. I think he's right. Most people saw this as, this is not going to work. But what they were doing wasn't working either. Maybe it really was a wonderful community, as he says, but it was apparently a pretty small community. Now, he does say that the food was subpar to reasonably adequate. I went through a bunch of reviews, older reviews. I mean, all the reviews now are just like, shut up, vegans, 5 stars, from people who've never been to the restaurant probably. But I went to some older reviews before they announced they were adding meat, so like a year or so ago. And there were a few from people saying this is not good, mostly complaining about the portion size. I remember reading someone said they got a slice of eggplant with just a bunch of sauce on it, $27 for a tiny bowl of food, that sort of thing. But for the most part, I saw good reviews. People seemed to like the food. I would guess the main reason Sage failed has nothing to do with veganism or regenerative agriculture and everything to do with the food industry being really tough. It's really hard to make money owning a restaurant. Researchers at Cornell University and Michigan State University conducted a study of restaurants in 3 local markets over a 10-year period. After the first year, 27% of restaurant startups failed. After 3 years, 50% of those restaurants were no longer in business. And after 5 years, 60%. At the end of the 10 years, 70% of the restaurants that had opened for business a decade before had failed. So it seems like the odds were stacked against them regardless. Now, this is from restaurantowner.com. They do say that another academic research study concluded that 81.4% of all small business failures result from forces within the control of the owner/managers. Maybe there's more things they could have tried, changing up the menu, adding larger portions, although that's going to eat into your profit, obviously. Changing location, maybe the location wasn't great or it was too expensive, but there's no guarantee that any of those changes are going to be successful. I mean, the number of vegan restaurants that have closed here in the last few years, I don't even know. So many little pop-ups and food carts are no longer around. It's a really hard business, no matter what you serve. But yeah, alienating probably a large percentage of your customer base by adding meat to the menu, probably not a smart business choice.
Russell Brand is here.
But I knew because there was Secret Service here.
I'm very grateful to be in a double act with Mel Gibson all of a sudden.
My life's changed quite a lot. A little while ago, I was a vegan, living a simple life in Grays, Essex. Now I'm eating steak at Mar-a-Lago. Funny how the world changes.
Was anyone surprised by this? I talked about this recently. I can't remember what video it was, but it's hard for us to be part of a group, but not quite. And Russell Brand, he used to be, I think he's been vegetarian since he was a teenager, and he's been vegan for a while. But over the past 5 or so years, he's been moving more to the right. He's gotten obsessed with conspiracy theories.
I know that for years my promiscuity was exploitative. But, of course, I'm going to mention that it happened not when I was, all over the media every day in Hollywood on talk shows, introducing movies, blah, 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 and actually sleeping with loads of women. It happened when I started to talk about Moderna, Pfizer, Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, and exploitation and manipulation at the highest level.
Vaccine denialism. These are all more right-leaning now. There's actually a good article, it's New York Times or Washington Post, just recently talking about that, how the crunchy mom thing now is more right-leaning than left-leaning. Point is, he's gotten really popular talking about these sorts of issues, which are going to align more with people on the right. So his audience is going to become more conservative. And then he, in turn, is probably going to become more conservative. And what is anti-conservative? Veganism. Not saying you can't be a conservative vegan, you absolutely can, but the optics, being a conservative who cares about animal welfare enough to not eat meat, who cares about the environment, it's seen as a very weak position to have by a lot of conservatives. And so it's much easier to just drop the veganism. I mean, he's hanging out with Tucker Carlson, yeah, it's going to be easier to just eat the steak. I'm not saying that's right, not at all. And I really appreciate when people don't do that. I think Sam Harris has gone out of his way to not conform to his conservative viewers, conservative listeners who have complained over and over and over again whenever he says anything anti-Trump. And he stuck to his guns and he kept saying anti-Trump stuff and kept focusing on why Trump is a bad choice. I really appreciate that. I don't think most people are strong enough to do that. It feels much nicer to agree with virtually everything your audience says, right? And to make them happy. And also money. We can't forget about money. If he starts making anti-vegan videos, those are probably going to be a lot more popular than guys, don't eat cows. Now, he did have a video called They're Doing What to Vegan Food? Oh my gosh. This was 3 years ago, almost 1 million views. It's one I meant to react to, but just didn't get around to it. I think I did watch it, and it was a little fear-mongering about, processed foods, but he did say, they're very helpful getting people to switch.
So from an ethical perspective and from a deliciousness perspective, eating them fake meats is a plausible alternative to crueler meat products, and looks like there ain't too much compromise on the taste front. But me, at my age, I don't want to be eating mindless junk.
Anyway, if you want some good news about veganism, please do check out this year's Good News Vegan video for 2024. It's the 5th one of these I've done. I do them every year. Thank you so much for watching. I would love to know your thoughts on Sage Restaurant or Russell Brand or both. Whatever. Subscribe, all that stuff. Thank you so much to my members and my patrons at patreon.com/unnaturalvegan. I do post 2 exclusive videos a month for tier 2 YouTube members and patrons. I do a vlog and then I do a controversial topic. The controversial for January for this month will be posted very soon. I just recorded it. And that's it for me. New video soon.